a lot of pressure, under a lot of pressure. Fingers crossed this microphone is working. Hi, welcome back. Hello, how are you? And really just a welcome back to my mom because she's the main one watching this. But hi, Pam. I love you so much. I feel like we need to just start today off with me letting you know that I got my first hate comment the other day. And actually, I wish I screenshotted it because I was telling like my friends about it and I was like, this is insane. I posted like a video last week talking about whatever, but I think in one part of it I was talking about my hair because I didn't like my hair. Now the braids have settled and I'm really into the hair. I'm actually quite digging it, but the dust hadn't settled yet. It was like day 2 of the braids and so I hated them. And I was talking about it in the video and I think I just said something like these boneless ass braids, like I wasn't living for them at the time. I was being funny and joking and quite dramatic as I always am. It wasn't really like an invitation to critique me, but it was so funny. So it wasn't even, I mean, it was rude, but it was hilarious. He was like, number 1, get rid of the nose ring. Oh, so I thought I was talking about my hair. He said, get rid of the nose ring, more makeup. Oh, I thought I was talking about my hair. And then he was like, braids are fine, or something like that. And I was like, thank God the braids are fine. In the end, the braids are okay. And actually, I really needed that. So thank you so much. Reporting you now. And by the way, since we're talking about the hair, fix your face. Hey, hey, also think about fixing your face and your body, by the way. Hair's fine. Actually, that's the least of your worries. Fix everything else. I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, how am I doing though? How am I doing? Let's talk more about me, actually. I'm grand. I'm rejuvenated because I was working 6 days last week because I went on a whole rant about work and like people not treating me or other people with respect. And I ended up writing a whole Substack article about it. I said I was going to do it, but I ended up doing it. And so, like, halfway through the week, my friend texted me and was like, what are you doing Sunday? And I was like, well, unfortunately, I'm working, sadly. And she was like, okay, what about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? And I was like, okay, queen, like, when are you working? Like, what's going on? What do you need? Do you need like bone marrow? Like, what's going on that you like desperately need me almost every day of the week? And she just basically wanted to go hiking. And I was like, oh my God, let's go hiking. So we found this cute little city right outside of New York called Cold Spring. And it was much needed. It's only an hour and 20 on the Metro North, like amazing, right outside the city. And it was the best. Sometimes I don't realize how overstimulated I get, uh, really with life, but also just being in the city until I get out of it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so quiet. I can hear the birds chirping. And it was just so much fun. And we hiked. The hike was like 4 hours. And we did, and that was like it's called Bull Hill. And so it's the smaller of the two hikes, but it took us 4 hours. And then we just explored the cute little town and went out to dinner. I actually have battle scars, and let's really get into that because I fell. It's okay, it's going away now, but like picture it worse because there was obviously so much snow, or not so much, but oddly more snow than you would think, even though we're a couple weeks out from the blizzard that we had. And so I assumed it would have melted for the most part, especially since it's been so warm, but there was a lot of snow still out there. And so I was slipping and sliding left and right. It was crazy town all over the place. So battle scar to really like bring more attention. I was like climbing, girl. I was like, "Woo, woo, woo." We were like trying to be like really chic when we pass other hikers and like be chatting. And I remember we passed this couple and they were like, hi, how are you? And we're like, we're good. And they like made like a funny joke. And I was like, nah, good luck on your hike. Boom. Fell, fell on my ass. And they're like, oh. So we're on flat ground right now. What happened to you? So embarrassing. The views were insane. And if I ever can figure out how to work YouTube and insert photos, oh my God, once I can insert photos, you're done because the photos were gorgeous and you just kind of have to imagine it or perhaps use Google because I don't know how to do that yet. But beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Explored the town, went to this adorable restaurant, and okay, we went to this adorable restaurant, okay? Our waiter comes out. One, I walk into the establishment and I'm like, yeah, I'm right where I need to be. Have you seen those like that TikTok uh meme of like millennials in 2013? Like it was like man bun, tattoo sleeve. They're playing like Echo Smith in the background, handhelds instead of burgers, and they're calling it a handheld. And yes, it's $25. Like I walk into this establishment and that is all that it is. I walk in, the first guy I come up to, man bun, tattoo sleeve, minimum 36 years old, maybe older. Okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm right where I need to be. This is where I need to be right now. Echo Smith, not even joking, cool kids playing in the background, right? And then Safe and Sound, I think, played later. Thank God. Thank God. Walk outside, look at the menu, get to our seats, handhelds, $20 to $30 each one. I was like, absolutely, absolutely. Got up after we finished eating, walked to the train, and we got back by like 9. It was the best. Feel refreshed. And since it's been so warm, I'm realizing I don't hate everyone. I don't. I just hate the cold. But I there was like a moment there in the last like 2 months where I was like, I hate everyone on this planet. And I'm pretty firm on that. I'm generally like a pretty positive person, but I was like, no, everyone on this planet hate them. Hate them. Just because it was 20 degrees and I was over it. And then the minute it hit 60, I'm like, maybe life's not only is life worth living, not only that, but also I want to talk and befriend everyone I come across. The way the sun like opens me up and I find myself more open to just human interaction and like community, which is what life's all about. Or but we talked a lot about on our trip about how hard that is in actuality, because we talk a lot about the importance of being present, but especially like in this era of my life and her life and many of our lives, like in our 20s, you're like figuring everything out for the first time because there's growing pains and all of that. You're romanticizing the past, right? I'm like thinking about childhood and how simple my life was and like wishing I'd kind of valued that more or like value the moments I had with people that are no longer here. And also that part of adulthood, right? People are getting older, they're passing away, like all of those things. And so that's also kind of shifting the way you think about your own life and mortality in a really like scary way sometimes. And so you're just wishing and you're always kind of thinking back about the past and hope like wishing you valued it more. So your mind's always there. Or if it's not there, it's always thinking about how like I have rent due that I have to think about, or like something in the future. Or if it's not rent, even if it's something fun, like I'm going to visit friends, it's like planning, whether financially or with my own schedule or whatever it is, planning for that upcoming exciting thing, yes, but like that upcoming thing. We were just talking about how it's so hard. The idea of being present is beautiful in theory, but it's so hard to actually get there, you know? Or I'll have moments where I am present and then I go, oh my God, I'm being really present. That's amazing. And then I'm out of it. But speaking of millennial burger joint, something I've been thinking about because I'm seeing it all on TikTok all the time, and I need to get off TikTok because it irritates me all of the time, is this like entire like intergenerational fighting. And I think I wrote a Substack article on this, maybe. I hate it so much. I think because my relationship with like generations, like whether millennial, Gen X, boomer, whatever, I think I just have good relationships with a lot of people in those different generations that I think my when we have these conversations on TikTok or when people have those conversations, they make my head hurt because they're so kind of like devoid of any nuance. I know everyone says nuance, but I think it's true and it's so annoying. So you'll just see millennials talking about how annoying Gen X or Gen Z are. Something about like Gen Z are getting fired at an alarming rate, right? And I was like watching these TikTokers talk about it because they're millennials and I'm Gen Z, by the way, for context. I feel like that's obvious by all the likes I'm inserting in every other word. But talking about Gen Z and how annoying or whatever we are. And then I see like Gen Z talking about millennials and how like annoying and cringy they are. And I see that all the time on social media and it's not like always in good fun. You know, like I think like laughing at a millennial meme is like fun in contact. Like fun is a little joke. But this intergenerational fighting I see that feels like it only exists on the internet, but I think is important to talk about. I find so I don't know. I think a part of me because I am the friend that's too woke, and so I just can't help but think about something a little deeply. And so I remember back when I was younger and like wanted to be a millennial so bad because I was like a kid when they were like in college and things. how much the media talked about how, unmotivated, lazy, overly like woke this generation of millennials were, when all they were doing were like questioning things about society from like a sociological perspective that I think are very valid and very important. And they were kind of putting this down as like an indication of the way that that generation focuses on thinking things that boomers or Gen X deem as like insignificant or unimportant, right? And I feel like I'm seeing something similar happen, unfortunately. And I know these things are cyclical, but it still makes me sad with millennials saying similar things about Gen Z, just in a different way, about a generation of people that are unmotivated or always like arguing with authority or like always complaining and not wanting to work. And in all these conversations about each generation and this assertion of their lack of motivation, it always makes me wonder because in the same way that older generations can be on the front lines of change because they have wisdom to give to younger generations, I also think younger generations can very much be on the forefront of change and in a much different way because they're willing to indulge and explore ideas that maybe further that maybe other generations didn't get to because of the society that they grew up in. We're at a place where the younger generations might just be exploring ideas further, and it doesn't mean they're unmotivated. It means maybe it's pointing to something interesting, right? Why do we always talk about younger generations as these like unmotivated groups of people, like, and why would we choose to talk about younger people that way when they're meant to push the world forward? I think there's valid conversations to have, especially post COVID, about work ethic and maybe addiction to phones and how that like limits our desire to like do things and be productive. But I think if we're talking about a young generation of people that are saying, hey, maybe we're working too much, or hey, I've been at this organization for X number of years post grad, and there's no room to move upward, right? And to be promoted or anything because everyone's still in their positions because no one's making enough to even entertain the thought of retiring, right? Maybe that is pointing to some, and or maybe a generation of people that are less likely to take abuse from their boss or take any kind of discomfort, unnecessary discomfort or mistreatment from their employer. Maybe doesn't point to an unmotivated group of people, but maybe it points to a generation of people that are willing to start poking something that's needed to be poked at for a long time. Do you know what I mean? In the same way, millennials talking about gender and sexuality more, right? I know that's changed my life in the way that I've like grown up just assuming those are important things to talk about. And so getting into adulthood and learning that there's a lot of people older than me that don't find those things to be important discussion points to talk about the intersections between gender and sexuality and race is like baffling to me. But I grew up idolizing these millennials that discussed and talked about these things and talked about how important they are, which they are. And so I grew up thinking, oh my gosh, it most definitely is. So I don't know. I think intergenerational like infighting between generations, it's just so stupid. It doesn't allow the process of really learning and giving to one another, which I think all generations should do. It doesn't allow for that, and that makes me sad. And part of it probably is phones, right? Like I said, I think in my own personal relationships with people I know that are millennials or Gen X or boomers, like I don't have those kind of views of them, and I like to think they don't have those views of me. But and maybe they do, I don't know. So it also feels like to a degree it's just the internet, and it's people talking out of their ass, which they love to do, and it's people talking that don't have those relationships, interpersonal relationships with people in their own life, any particularly close relationship. And it's also all about perspective. So yeah, anyway, I'll stop talking about that. I don't know how to end this. I feel like I'm so hungry. Oh, do you know what I tried this week that was so good? Cashew yogurt from Trader Joe's. It's like cashew n- n- yogurt. Uh, so literally what I said. It sounds like it'd be disgusting, delicious. And I'm trying to really, I'm lactose intolerant, but I kind of don't believe that I am. I just like to ignore it. But I got a level of bloated this week. I got a level of bloated this week that made me go, is it possible I'm pregnant? And is it possible that I'm already 6 months along? Like, is that a possibility? It just might. That's how bloated I got. Like, what is it? Is it a cyst? Like, what is going on? Right. And naturally, I didn't go to the doctor because I don't think I value my health in the way that I should. And so I was like, okay, let's just like write it out. I think it's the dairy. I've had so much burrata in like because I've gone to a lot of restaurants this week, and if there's burrata on the menu, I'm grabbing the burrata. I love burrata. You know what I mean? So there's just been like kind of an overwhelming amount of burrata in my life in the last 7 days. And I was like, okay, we must entertain that the burrata might be the issue. The dairy just might be the issue. And it's okay to entertain that, Kayla. So I'm really kind of in a place in my life where I'm going, do you know what, Kayla, you're lactose intolerant. Actually, really honor that. And so instead of eating yogurt 6 days a week, eat yogurt, but maybe have the cashew. Maybe the cashew yogurt. And it's not as bad, guys, as it sounds. It sounds disgusting. Okay. But once you get like over like the texture of it, because the texture is like a little, you open it, you're like, this feels like I'm being poisoned. Once you get over that part, it is actually really good. And I'm not being funny. I'm not being funny. It is not really good. That's a little much, but it's good. Like it does the job if you can't have regular yogurt. And so on that note, thanks so much for watching. I'm gonna go to work because the grind never stops. Thanks. I'll see you in the next one.